Right, what is happening, people? And once again, welcome back to the Joey Knight podcast. Now, Mauricio Pochettino has officially started his reign as Chelsea Football Club manager. And no pressure, Poch, but you're pretty much tasked with turning the club's entire fortunes around. We're in a time where rival fans are desperate to see Chelsea's recent downfall cemented and continued. And do you know what? I've never really known anything like it. Every single rival fan has the knives out for us at the minute. Chelsea are a small club. Chelsea are nothing without Abramovich. Chelsea are back where they belong. Well, listen, words are great, but as John Terry once said, stats don't lie, and the statistics would show you that we are the most successful English club over the last 2 decades, and for that reason, I think you lot are all wrong. Chelsea fans should be hugely optimistic about this coming season because, let's be honest, it can't be any worse than the last one, can it? So that being said, here's what you lot can expect to see from Mauricio Pochettino's Chelsea this season. The first thing is further player outgoings. So if it's been said once, it's been said 1,000 times. There's only 3 survivors from the 11 that started against Man City in the Champions League final. And whether you agree with the sales of Mount, Kovacic, Havertz, barring N'Golo Kante, who was always likely to leave this summer, the 3 that have survived from that 11 were pretty much the best 3 in that 11. Reece James, Ben Chilwell and Thiago Silva. One thing that I have admittedly been impressed by is the fact that we have been able to bring in pretty decent fees for the outgoings we've had. Now listen, there are still players that for me need to go this summer. So to name a few players that I would still like to see exits for this summer are Romelu Lukaku, Hakim Ziyech, which let's be honest isn't going to be an easy one because he can't pass a medical for love nor money, as well as both Christian Pulisic and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Now the second thing that you're going to see this summer is some of our young talent going out on loan. Now we have got a wealth of young talent who aren't guaranteed to see a whole lot of minutes at Stamford Bridge this season, so the best thing for their progression as players is going to be to go out on loan at decent respectable clubs, gaining minutes that's going to be vital for their progression. Now there is an asterisk next to this one because before we can truly decide who goes out, we need to be sure on who's coming in. For example, if we can get this Moises Caicedo deal over the line and maybe another midfielder in there as well, then I could possibly see this rumoured loan move of Andre Santos to Porto happening. Kane Chukwuemeka and Cesar Casadei are 2 players in that midfield area that I could also see leaving on loan. However, I'm not actually suggesting that we send all 3 of those players that I've just mentioned there out on loan. For me, I'd like to see maybe Kane Chukwuemeka go out on loan to a Brighton, a Burnley, a Brentford, a club like that where I think he'll go into the first team, get valuable minutes and gain experience. Andre Santos is a player that really excites me, and because of his physical attributes, he's one that I would like to see brought into the first team at times next season. A couple more names that I'll be happy to see go out and get experience would be Amari Hutchinson and David Datro Fofana. As well as loan departures, it is pretty much certain that we are going to see more incomings. And obviously myself, along with pretty much the majority of the Chelsea fan base, are very eager to see the likes of Moises Caicedo brought into this Chelsea side. However, I don't think this one is as nailed on as some people think it is. So my alternative to Moises Caicedo would be Edson Alvarez from Ajax. Now, Edson Alvarez is a couple of years older than Moises Caicedo, and potentially you could say he's not as versatile as Moises Caicedo, but he is a player that I like. And I think at around 38 million, this player represents really good value in the current transfer market. Now, do I watch a lot of Dutch football? No. But I have watched Edson Alvarez on quite a few occasions in the past, and being that we've been linked to him in the past, I've often paid quite particular attention to his individual performance, and he is a player that I think could do very well at Chelsea. So that being said, behind Caicedo, Edson Alvarez would be my number 2 option to partner Enzo in midfield this season. One thing that I do know is we definitely cannot go into this season without addressing that exact position on the pitch. Now, as much as I rate the likes of Conor Gallagher, Andre Santos or Lewis Hall, who actually played in that position in the academy, I more see them as players that will be coming in off the bench this season rather than first team starters. So Todd, if you're watching this, you know what to do. Get out your checkbook, sign Moises Caicedo, and if Brighton wants silly money for him, go in for Edson Alvarez and get it done quick. Another thing that we as the fans will be happy to see this season, and maybe the players won't be looking forward to it as much, is increased levels of fitness. Pochettino has been said to be a big admirer and implementer of the Gayson fitness test, which in a nutshell has basically been described as the bleep test on steroids. Chelsea ranked 19th last season in the Premier League in distance covered, and although you had the likes of Man United and Arsenal ranking fairly low by that metric, they both had top 4 finishes, so clearly they were doing something right. I, as myself, was in attendance for a lot of games last season, and I'd be lying to you if I said that I didn't think that our players could have put more of a shift in at times. So Pochettino will definitely be putting these boys through their paces at Cobham this pre-season when it comes to their fitness, and it's going to help him determine exactly who is willing to run and bust the gut for him when it comes to being under the lights at Stamford Bridge this season. And the last thing that I'm going to touch on today that we will see from Pochettino's Chelsea next season is a change of formation. Right, this one's a bit of a grey area, so let me give it a bit of context. Anyone that watched Chelsea last season would know our team was all over the place and we didn't have a set formation. We tinkered with the starting 11 and the formation so many times last season, it was painful. We actually lined up over the course of the season with 11 different formations, which, let's be honest, that is mad. So maybe what I really mean by this is that I see Pochettino, for the most part, installing one set formation next season. Last season, we used 3 different formations over 10 times each. Those formations were a 4-3-3, a 3-4-2-1, and a 4-2-3-1. The latter of which is the formation that I see Pochettino lining up with us for the most part next season. So in that 4-2-3-1 formation, here is my preferred lineup. Kepa in goal. I know very recently I went on record as saying I'd like to see David Raya brought in, but it looks for the most part now like Pochettino is going to stick with Kepa as his number 1 next season. So Kepa in goal. Reece James right back. I'd go Thiago Silva and Levi Colwill, and in the left back position I'm going Ben Chilwell. In the midfield too, I want Enzo Fernandez to be partnered by either Moises Caicedo or Edson Alvarez. The 3 behind the striker, I'm going to go Raheem Sterling one side, I'm going to go Nkunku in the number 10, and I'm going to twist on the other wing position, which I originally said I'd have Noni Madueke in. I am going to go with Mykhailo Mudryk in this position. Now listen, I'm comfortable enough to take on constructive criticism, and after I put Noni Madueke there, I did hear from a lot of you guys saying that you would rather see Mykhailo Mudryk there. And when I've had a little think about how Pochettino plays, the style he lines up his teams in, and the way the formation changes as we move the ball, maybe Mykhailo Mudryk, with his work rate and with his willingness to run up and down, will be a player that we can utilise slightly better here. Up top, unless we bring a number 9 in, I'm definitely going for Armando Broja. One thing that I just touched on and is definitely worth noting here is that in modern day football, although a formation is a good idea of what structure the team's going to line up in, it's definitely not locked in. And if you look at Pochettino's style of play, normally that 4-2-3-1 formation does tend to start to shift as the team attacks. As Pochettino's teams go forward, what you'll usually see is the 2 fullbacks push up into the midfield space, and one of the 2 in the middle, which for me is obviously going to be Caicedo or Edson Alvarez, will drop into a makeshift back 3 in between the 2 centre-backs. And then someone from the front line would usually drop back into the midfield, and the other 2 would push up either side of the number 9. Now, before Mason Mount off to chase the bag at Man United, he would have been perfect for this role. But now, obviously, he's not there. You'd pretty much be picking between Sterling, Nkunku and Mudryk to drop into that midfield space. And if I'm honest, I don't think any of them are best suited to do that. The player in our team who has played in that midfield space before, and I think would be best in this system to be in their partner in Enzo, is actually Reece James. So I think you might see Pochettino's style of formation as it goes forward tweaked a little bit, with Reece James coming into the middle of Enzo Fernandez and then Mykhailo Mudryk dropping out wide where Reece James would have been. Now listen, I'm no expert, and this is just my guess on how I think that Pochettino's style of play might look next season, but if we look into the past, I think it gives us a pretty good indication that this may well be what we see going forward. So now we know what to expect to see over the next few weeks and months under the guidance of Mauricio Pochettino, but what do I see happening going forward? I honestly think that we're going to have such a better season than we saw last year, and I think without the injuries that have pretty much plagued us over the last 2 years, we can be really excited about this season. Do I think that we will compete for the title or even win it like we did the last time we finished outside of those European spaces? No. But let's be honest, if we were to secure Champions League football and even pick up a domestic trophy along the way, my God, would that feel good. Now, under the ownership of Roman Abramovich, if we had a bad season where we didn't really compete on any fronts, it wouldn't massively concern me because history would suggest that the good times will roll around again. However, under this new regime, I think it's the uncertainty that pretty much kills us fans. hands. However, after the initial skepticism that I admittedly will hold my hands up and say I had when Pochettino was appointed, I have now completely contradicted myself, done a full 360-degree turn and pledged my allegiance to Pochettino. And I'm not naive enough to not realise how hard it's going to be for us next season. Pretty much all of those top 7 teams are strengthening, and, you know, the emergence of clubs recently like Brighton and Aston Villa are going to add to the competition that we're facing. And let's be honest, we've got a squad who pretty much for the most part don't even really know each other. Now, the lack of true bonding in that first team squad cannot be ignored, but that's why I'm liking the early signs of what I'm seeing from Poch. One of Pochettino's first things he did in the job was throwing a barbecue for staff and players on the training ground, and albeit it's a small one, it is a step in the right direction in my opinion. The pre-season tour of America is obviously going to help players form bonds, and the fact that Bruno Saltor has been kept on and the GOAT of Chelsea Football Club, John Terry, is back at Cobham will surely add more stability and a feel-good factor around the staff also, which as well as the playing team has seen a massive turnaround in recent times. Let's be honest, none of us have a crystal ball that we can look into and tell you exactly how next season's going to go, but what I'm saying is I'm really liking the early signs of what I'm seeing under this new Pochettino era. Anyway, there's my thoughts on it, but like always, I am more interested to hear what you lot think. Let me know in the comments what changes you are expecting to see from Chelsea this season, and ultimately, I want to know what position you see us finishing in the league. When this video drops, I will be trying to reply to every single comment, so get your questions in, get your comments in, and I will be coming back to all of you. One more thing also, on my last video where I named my ideal 11 for Chelsea next season, I noticed that on the analytics page on YouTube, about 90% of the people that watched that video hadn't actually subscribed to the channel. So please, please, please do me a massive favour. If you're liking the content that I'm working really, really hard on banging out at the minute, please hit the subscribe button and click the bell, because then you'll get a notification every time one of my videos goes up. I will see you all in the next one.